3:30 in the morning. I received the results, and I don't know what's going on. I was like trembling. I was literally crying because, yes, I'm in severe pain. I have a terrible accident, and now I can't walk. And that was probably the most crushing thing I've ever experienced in my entire life.
Welcome to the AAA Mindset, the podcast where adversity isn't a setback, it's the setup. If life has challenged you and stepped on your confidence and forced you to pivot, you're in the right place. Here, we train the mind to face obstacles head on and turn them into fuel for growth, resilience, and success. The next morning, we call our buddy Ralphie.
And explain, who is Ralphie?
Okay, so Ralphie is one of my best buddies. He's an internist, so obviously trust him, with all medical things. So that was my first reaction was I need to call Ralphie and tell him what's going on and see if he can help me with this. So I call him. I'm like, hey, buddy, last night I was at a sumo wrestling restaurant. This sounds absolutely insane. Just prepare yourself. At a restaurant, sumo wrestling, and me and this dude go at it. I fall, have a terrible accident. And now I can't walk, and I don't know what's going on. They told me that I was dehydrated. They told me I might have rhabdo. So then Ralphie's like, oh, rhabdo, like, I've treated this 100,000 times. You're going to be fine. Just chug water, pee like a racehorse. So then he said, okay, hydrate in 6 hours, try to take some more steps, see how that goes, and give me a call. So I'm like nervous as hell to actually do this again, because the night before I had one of the most traumatic events in my life. Probably I'm like nervous all day to do this. So then it's like 6 hours. And I'm like, all right, let's do this. Let's see if we're better. So Anastasia like pads the whole room. She puts the mat, she puts the comforter down, pillows.
Absolutely.
Because again, she just watched her husband fold himself into a freaking glass table the night before. So she puts all the padding down, and I'm like, okay, we got this. So I take 2 steps, boom, folding chair. Again. On the ground, knees under me, feet behind me, heads behind me. And at that point, I was like,
you knew.
F this.
You knew something was wrong.
Something is not right. I literally started screaming. I mean, I was on the ground, and, it takes a lot for me to cry. I was literally crying because, yes, I'm in severe pain, but it's more of I am in bad shape, and I'm in Japan.
Yes.
And I'm 11 hours away from my home by flight.
Not to mention 2 young kids at home that, y'all have to find a way to do this. So do you call Ralphie again and let him know, hey, that didn't go well?
Yeah, exactly. So we call Ralphie again, and he's like, okay, let me see the labs. Like, let me see if this is actually rhabdo, because if it is, then you're definitely going to feel like this is like the worst leg day you've ever had in your life. And it's going to take you several days to get back on your feet. So we send him the labs, and he looks at these and he's like, that's not rhabdo. Like, your creatine kinase level should be way higher.
It was like 810, and typical rhabdo is like in the hundreds of thousands, or like 10 to thousands, like hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, he's like, Adam, you might actually have like an injury. And then
he said, I think you have an injury.
Yeah. And we realized that going back to the hospital and like what they actually did, they didn't actually do a thorough exam. There were no x-rays. There was no imaging.
Do you feel like, just out of curiosity, mindset wise, do you feel like it's better that you guys did not know actually the severity of the injuries? Like, are you glad you didn't find that out at the hospital and then being away?
Yes. In a way, yes. Because if I would have had this surgery in Japan, I would have not felt comfortable with
because I don't think that they would have allowed you to probably fly home. So in a sense, I feel like it's almost a blessing that you really didn't know what was wrong until you got back to the States.
I agree. Yeah, because if they would have found out, obviously this is like one of the most severe injuries you can have as a human being. And if they would have found out what it was, I'm sure they would have encouraged me to get medical treatment in Japan. I just wasn't about that.
Absolutely. So now we know there's an injury. We know there's a problem. We have to get home. So how does that look? Because you still had a whole nother day. Did you?
Well, there was some steps too. So once we found out that I was hurt, then Anastasia started posting stuff on social media. Well, one of our friends, Sarah Hurley, reached out to her and was like, hey, my old client Cam, who I'm friends with as well, also had a similar story. He was diagnosed with rhabdo. He was playing paintball, so he got hurt, diagnosed with rhabdo, He was like, this is not rhabdo. He said it was like 2 days, and he knew it wasn't rhabdo. So then he finally got an MRI, found out that he had a bilateral quad tendon rupture. So when Sarah contacted Anastasia, Cameron called me, and we started talking, and we started exchanging stories.
Yeah, while we're in Japan, we're talking to him.
While we're in Japan, and we're talking to him, and me and him are talking about what happened to us, and we have the same story. It's the same story, but the only difference is he was playing paintball and I was sumo wrestling, but he had the same side effects, everything. And he's like, dude, you tore your quads. And I was like, yeah, I know I did.
Yep.
And so again, you're in Japan and like, I didn't really even know like the severity of a bilateral quad tendon rupture because who the hell does that? Right?
Not many people.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're just kind of like, wait, no way. Like even referring back to like some of our friends that are in the medical field and our friend Ralphie, they're like, no.
Oh yeah.
That's not.
I
That's
mean,
not
I
it.
called one of my buddies who's in residency at CU,
An orthopedic.
in orthopedic surgeon, and so I called him and I was like, hey buddy, I got hurt out here in Japan. I think I tore both of my quads, and he was like, dude, there's no way. He's like, that is like the rarest injury you could ever have as a human. Like the likelihood of you doing that is like insane. And so I was like, no, I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Yeah, pretty sure I did that. And so he's like, okay, do me a favor, go put your legs on the edge of the bed, and I want you to try to lift your legs up straight, like you're doing like an extension, right?
Right.
I couldn't even register in my brain how to do that. Like there was no connection between my brain and my legs to even like register how to do that because there was no tendon attached to my bone and muscle.
And that's so scary. I can't imagine how you felt in that moment.
Yeah,
like
you just
I can't
use
move
your
my
legs.
leg.
I literally can't lift my legs. So then, like
Weird.
you said, Abby, then it's time
We got to
to
go home. We got to go home.
And we did this 2 days before we were supposed to go home. So we hadn't seen our kids for 15 days. I mean, and I'm in really bad shape. I'll let Anastasia tell the story about the insurance.
Yeah, so you compared stories with Cam. Cam is like, okay, when you guys get to the airport, I'm gonna meet you with these straight leg braces that they put me in and a walker. We're gonna get you, to see a doctor right away. But we're like, okay, we got to figure out how to get from Denver to Tokyo.
But first,
from
let's
Tokyo to Denver first.
Let's get home first.
All the next day, literally the next day.
Yeah.
And we had actually had travel insurance for this trip. So I was like getting on the phone with everyone from our travel insurance to United Airlines to try to figure out how to get us home. And side note, our travel insurance agent was actually trying to advise us to stay in Japan to seek further medical attention. And she was also trying to tell us that we weren't going to be able to get like wheelchair assistance onto the plane.
Yeah, she was honestly a bitch. She was.
Hope you're not watching, but
I don't care if you are.
do a better job.
She told me that, sir, you're going to have to figure out how to walk from your wheelchair to the gate. I said, ma'am,
No.
I don't think you quite understand the severity of my injury. I cannot walk. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, and that's completely incorrect because there's people who don't walk
And that's
all
what
the
I told her.
time
I
on
said,
airplanes.
I'm pretty sure I'm not the first person that you've got on an airplane that can't walk. I bet you do it every day.
So again, you go into that mode of just like, we're making this happen.
Yeah,
No,
because
I told her that.
Well, and especially after the experience we had at the hospital, not great. And the fact that we haven't seen our kids in 15 days and we're relying heavily on our family to help us watch them while we're gone. We were like, no, we're going home. So I set up wheelchair assistance with United all the way to the seat on the plane. I had to tell Adam, okay, we're going to approach this like a video game. And we just have to get past each level. And the final boss was like actually getting through the 11-hour plane ride. And of course, we had to think of other things and details like how to get Adam to avoid a bowel movement during the flight, how he was going to pee in a cup discreetly without, getting us kicked off the plane.
I literally fasted the entire day.
Yeah,
Well, you had to.
Fast.
Yeah.
We it was just like, what do we do? What are the logistics? Again, I put on that ER, a hat. Like, what do we do in this situation? How do we get us to this next step? And it was like, okay, the next morning it was like, okay, step 1, let's get you from the bed to the wheelchair. Okay, good, we passed level 1, check
mark.
Yeah.
And
step 2,
let me just say something. So as you're doing every step, in my mind, I'm thinking every time I have to transition from the bed to the wheelchair, I'm going to collapse like I did the night before or the two nights before.
So fear is creeping in.
So every time I have to stand up, I'm like terrified that my legs are just going to completely collapse.
Yeah, it's definitely like that PTSD fear of like, do I even try it again? Because I know what happened last time. Yeah. But you're also in the mindset of I have to do it.
Yeah, I have no, I basically told myself, people were like, how did you do that? I just gave myself no choice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 11 hours from my kids. I can't walk and I don't want to be in Japan right now.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you share that because it just proves that when you really have to do something, you will actually do it.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yep.
This was basically for me, it was life and death.
Yeah.
It was like,
that's how it felt.
You either do it or, what am I going to do? Stay in Japan and recover? No, that's not how we're going to do this.
So you get in the wheelchair, you're heading out, I assume, to the taxi, Uber, whatever they have there in Japan.
Yeah. We had 4 dudes come out and help me into the van. We had a van already scheduled for us before this happened. So thank God we already had that. 4 guys come out, help me into the van, take us to the airport. They have people come out and help me get in the wheelchair, wheel me in. We met this lady. She was amazing. She was so sweet.
From United. Yeah.
She
Oh.
took us all the way to the gate, and then I had a bigger wheelchair. So when I got to the gate, I had to transfer into a smaller wheelchair to go onto the plane.
Can you only imagine?
Adam going down the
Right.
aisle.
And again, every time I have to transition in from a bigger wheelchair to a smaller wheelchair, I have to stand up and somehow get into that. So again, PTSD is
Yeah.
strong. I'm like freaking out because every time I have to move, I think my legs are just going to break.
Mm-hmm.
And so finally get into this little tiny ass wheelchair. They wheel me on the flight, and then they're pushing me on an aisle, and I'm so big that I don't think I'm going to fit. So like literally in my head, I'm like, are they going to be able to get me down the aisle? And so I like literally like hug myself like this. So my shoulders are like as small as possible. And I go down the aisle like this. So they finally get me to my seat. And again, I have to go from the wheelchair into the seat. Terrifying, right? Because your legs like literally don't work. And so I thank God I have a strong upper body, and I was able to use my upper body to do all this stuff. So like a couple guys helped me kind of inch into the seat, and then I used my upper body to get to my seat. And once I was in my seat, I was actually okay, because as long as my legs were straight, I was okay. But if I bent them at all, then I would have those cramps that I had, and it's like literally like I mean I start screaming like I'm literally being murdered.
Oh my. So you're on the airplane. What did you guys feel like when you finally sat down in that seat? Were you like,
that was like
oh
one of the
my
most
gosh.
relieving things I've
I'm
ever
like,
felt
we
in my
made
life.
it to the
we
final
made
boss.
it. Don't have a cramp though. Don't have a cramp.
That's it. That's exactly the whole time, like the whole 11 hours, it was like consciously like, don't let your quads contract. Don't let your legs bend, you know? And it's also like, hopefully I don't have to use the bathroom. Because if I have to go number 2, I'm going to army crawl to the bathroom because I don't know what else to do. So then we also were worried about, like, obviously you're going to have to pee, right? It's an 11-hour flight. And so we tell the flight attendant before we took off, Anastasia told the flight attendant, hey, my husband's got this terrible injury. He can't walk. We might have to pee in the shaker cup. And the guy was like,
I didn't see a thing.
as soon as it's night, lights go off, I don't see a damn thing. So like super cool, totally
That's
understood.
amazing.
But yeah, I did have to pee in a shaker cup while Anastasia held a blanket over me, and I had to pee in my seat. Thank God there was no one sitting next to us.
Can we just stop for a second and just say hi, wife of the year right here,
She definitely went
having
over.
her husband pee in a cup, and she is like dumping it out on the airplane.
Oh, she was a pro at that by then. She was dumping out.
That probably was
piss.
like the least of your worries is peeing in a cup.
Let me go back for a second, because you had said something like, you know, like, what are your thoughts going through your head, like when you finally made it to the plane? And, you know, and I'm thinking like, okay, we made it here. But anytime I've been in a situation like where I see like Mount Everest in front of me, where I'm like, how are we going to do this? How am I going to do this uphill battle? No matter any time in my life, one thing that I've trained myself to do is to take it one step at a time.
Yep.
And that's why I say it was like beating these levels in a video game, because it was like, okay, not weigh so much on myself about like the whole accomplishment that needs to get done, but more like, okay, how can I approach this realistically and do one step at a time, one foot in front of the other, and just keep going. And the next thing you know, you do it.
You've gotten there.
And
Yeah.
you're like, oh my gosh, we did it. So we're on this plane ride, and we're like, okay, Adam's doing well. He's stable. He's able to like kind of have a little bit of leg room. By the way, we asked to see if we could get upgraded to first class. It was $3,000 per person.
No. It was 4,000 a person.
Yeah, 4,000 a person.
I'm sure you questioned it for a second,
I
though.
did question it.
For
but
a
I was like,
second.
you know what?
Right.
I'm not going to go home hurt and 8,000 in the hole. Sorry.
Yeah. So we're like, we'll suck it up. Well, we got like, what was it? Like United Express or
More leg room.
Yeah, more leg room, whatever it was. And so we at least had that, and we're getting home, and we're like, okay, we have to arrange how we're going to get picked up from the airport and get to the house. So my brother George was picking us up from the airport, and then our friend Cam is meeting us with these braces.
Cam,
so,
you're the MVP.
Yeah.
Hope you're listening.
Cam, I never met you, but thank you so much.
Yeah, because when Cam brought me those braces, that allowed my legs to have stability, and I could actually like stand up and not collapse. So it was like a total game changer, because I don't even know how I would have gotten into George's car, because he had a big Tahoe. I don't even know if my legs were like detached, how I would have even done that.
Wow.
Like, I don't think people quite understand the severity of like when I say if I bent my knee a centimeter, I was going down like a ton of bricks.
Oh my goodness.
And you're in excruciating pain.
But I bet you, although you were like in pain and scared, I bet you felt so much relief. Like you're back in the US, you're back in Colorado.
Oh, yeah.
Your kids are only 20 minutes away now.
As
Like,
soon as
okay.
we touched down, like I felt like I was released from like a prison camp and just landed on US soil. So relieved because I'm like, okay, like this is a really messed up situation, but at least I'm in America and I can like see American doctors and like get medical attention.
Absolutely. So, Anastasia, I think you make a great point there because you were saying before about the fact that you just took it like one step at a time. And I think so many times in life, like moments like this, or just in general, even way smaller moments, overwhelm people and they completely freeze and panic and don't know what to do. But if you just take it one step at a time, you can accomplish the goal.
Right.
True.
So, you finally get in the Tahoe, you're headed home, and now you're probably in a situation of, okay, great. We have stairs going up to our house.
Yeah.
How do we get in the house?
That's exactly what happened. So like all these like little things, because
Little
when we were in Japan, it was just like getting on the plane. Like you didn't think about all this like logistical stuff, right? So then once we get into George's Tahoe and I'm in the car, I'm like, shit, I have steps. How do I get up steps? And so then I like made a post. I was like, hey, like if any of my buddies can come help me, you know, and I had a bunch of my buddies reach out. I'm like, yeah, I'll totally help you, you know. So then I had a guy that I'm friends with and he reached out. He's a firefighter for Arvada. He reached out to me and was like, hey, bro, if you need help, you can call the fire department and they'll give you a lift assist. And I was like, well, that's the way to do it because these guys are used to doing this. They'll have, you know, numerous people and like this is their job. So I'm like, I'm going to go that route. We get close to the house. I call the fire department like 5 minutes before we roll up. Huge fire truck rolls up, you know, I'm in the car waiting to get, you know, pulled inside, trying to figure out how we're going to do this. So they roll up and they basically put me in like a tarp. We told the kids to go to the park so they didn't have to see their dad coming in a tarp because that's probably pretty traumatizing for a 2 and a 4-year-old. They get me in this tarp. All 4 or 5 of the firefighters haul my ass into the house. Finally get me on the bed, and then it was like, okay, at least we're here.
You're
You know,
home.
like my parents were there, Ralphie and our friend Chrissy were there. So I mean, it was nice to like feel like, you know, I had that support. But at that point, it was like, okay, we've got a lot of figuring out to do.
And then so basically at that point, we had our nanny, Julia, you know, bring our kids home so they could say hi to mom and dad. We haven't seen them for 15 days, but we also were prepping. We have a 2 and a 4-year-old. We're prepping Sophia, our oldest, for, okay, daddy's hurt. You know, this is what you're going to expect when you come in and see it. And so that was hard for me because it was like, okay, like how are my kids going to react to this? And this is a whole new thing. Like, is it going to freak them out? Are they going to try to like jump on him? And like, you know, we had all these things that we had to like kind of think about. So they came in and like our daughter is so like empathetic. She was just like, you know, daddy, I missed you. And she sat in your lap and like hugged you. And
She was very sweet.
And
sweet.
that was probably
Yeah.
very smart of you guys to prepare prior to seeing and thinking, I haven't seen you in 15 days and now you can't walk.
Right.
now you're going to see
Well,
daddy looking
I mean,
different.
Sophia's very smart. Like when we were in Japan, she like knew I was hurt because we were talking to my mom and Sophia on FaceTime, and I was in the bathroom, and she was like, "Daddy, stand up. Daddy, stand up." And I was like, I would like act like I was like standing up,
Yeah.
you know. And so she knew.
She knew.
She
Kids definitely they know when something's wrong.
Yeah, she knew.
So okay, so we get home, we're in the bed. Life is now like becoming reality because now we're back home. What was the next, like what were the next steps from there? Like what did you guys do? You immediately have to call for a doctor? Like what did you guys do when you got home?
When we got home, we arranged. So the next day, we arranged to go see a surgeon. So I talked to Cam. He helped me set up a doctor's appointment with his surgeon, who was amazing. So the next morning, I can't walk. I have stairs. We have to leave the house. Guess we'll call the fire department again.
Yeah.
So again,
our neighbors are like, what?
yeah, huge scene. You know, every time, you know, I have to leave the house or come in the house, we got this big ass fire truck rolling up, and it's just like,
Thank you, firefighters.
This is crazy. So again, firefighters come, give me a lift assist out of the house, get me in the car. We go 45 minutes to see the surgeon. We get there, we ask the front desk lady, you know, where we were here to basically tell her that we're here, and she tells us that they don't take our insurance.
I did not know that part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what did you do?
So
I mean, the devastation.
I was
on
like,
your
I mean, I like
face.
almost started crying
Yeah.
because I was like, I just got carried out of the house by firefighters, drove 45 minutes sitting in the back of a car, and you don't take my insurance. And I think the lady like saw how devastated I was. So she literally goes, you know what? Hold on. I'm going to go talk to the doctor real quick. So she goes and talks to Dr. Fitzgerald, comes back, tells us, hey, you know what? He's going to take care of you today on us. We're going to act like this never happened because he wants to see you. Because Cam told the doctor what I
What had
did.
happened. Wow,
Most
that's
orthopedic
incredible.
surgeons have never seen this injury in their entire career. I mean, my doctor, I was the first person that he ever performed surgery on a bilateral quad tendon rupture in his entire career.
So Dr. Fitzgerald gets back there. He pretty much like looks at Adam's knees. He puts his hand on his quads, and he's like,
he tapped my quads with 2 fingers
Yeah.
and goes, that one's torn completely. He was talking about the right one, and then he tapped the left one and goes, that one has a chance, but more than likely that one's torn too.
but we have to get an MRI.
Yeah.
Did you guys go immediately to an MRI?
Yeah. So
Yeah, we
he
set it up
ordered
later
a
that afternoon.
MRI stat, which means they'll do it immediately.
Yep.
And so 2 hours later, we had an MRI appointment. So I had to go to get an MRI 2 hours later. Okay.
Another hurdle.
I was
Getting
like, get in the car, get out of the car, get in a wheelchair.
Everything you do is a hurdle.
Yes.
Literally. Everything you do. We go to the doctor 2 hours later to go get the MRI. That is also an issue because I have to get out of the wheelchair and up on a table.
And out of the braces. You can't have the braces.
Yeah, and I
in the
couldn't have
MRI.
my braces on.
Yeah, so he's like very, very nervous.
I was like trembling, literally, because
yeah.
like again, the braces became my new blankie. It was like my comfort, you
Yep.
know. So once the braces, anytime the braces were loose or came off, my body was like, nope. So getting onto that table to do the MRI, that was awful. Like
Yeah.
the ladies like had to hold me up. They were terrified, and they finally got me on the table. We did the MRI at 3:30 in the morning. I received the results. And that was probably the most crushing thing I've ever experienced in my entire life. I obviously knew I was hurt. I obviously knew something was really wrong. But reading that both of your quad tendons are completely torn off of the bone is a pretty sobering moment.
Wow. And I remember talking to you the next day, or I think you even maybe messaged me that night and told me. But, I want to kind of pause here for a second, because let's go back to like what you've done professionally and who you are and what both of you have done, because you both have, had incredible careers as professional bodybuilders in the training industry, obviously been very successful. And I would say that you were at the peak of your success at the time you went to Japan.
Oh, yeah.
Anastasia had just come off of doing a pro show, actually 2 pro shows right before that. So she's now had 2 kids in the best shape of her life again, after having 2 children. Adam has, basically retired from the stage essentially, but is a very, very well-known trainer. And so successfully, they were at their peak. So to go from there, where you feel like, it's just going to keep going up, to suddenly you're laying in bed at 3:30 in the morning, you get MRI results that basically say you have one of the most unknown injuries to mankind, essentially. You cannot walk, and this recovery is going to be a nightmare. Where's your mindset at that moment?